Okay, welcome back to part two. And when we last left, we were talking about Jeff Koons, and I think I made my statement pretty clear that um, I think there's a lot that's built into Jeff Koons' work that is trying to convince or potentially convince the viewer not to take it seriously. And then there are other things that he does that purposefully kind of flip that and make you have to you know, take them seriously. Obviously, one of them might be the price tag. Um, so another artist I wanted to talk about in terms of um, taking his work, seriously and his emphasis on craft and on precision of product will be Jorge Pardo, who is a Cuban American artist. And although looking at the stuff I've seen online, it seems like most of his exhibitions are in Europe. And I think, like, once again, for his work, because he kind of fits in this um, ambivalent space between studio art and interior design, and um, and so that makes it harder sometimes for some people to know how to take him. I think this kind of like this consistent precision of craft and of presentation and of product um, helps to validate him being significant and relevant, even though he occupies this kind of, ambivalent conceptual space. So, craftsmanship. So we're going to be looking at some artists. By the way, I'm sorry if I go too fast through some of these questions. I should leave them up a little bit longer for you to read them, but I rush a little bit. But you can always go back if you want to. You can pause it. So we're going to look at some contemporary artists who I think um, really put a lot of strong emphasis on craft, and that becomes part of the dialogue of what their work is about, and what and it helps you to kind of um, lead you into like considering. And I think once again, it's definitely a part of why the works feel like they have authority. Uh, so Sarah Morris is one. I love her work a lot, and I think and she is impeccable in her precision. Um, I think definitely for someone like Hiroshi Sugimoto, where one of the things that makes him so interesting, because he has these very kind of conceptual process ideas, right? Where, like, taking a photograph just every time he's looking at any kind of any sea anywhere in the world, or the idea of like photographing an entire film with the exposure open the whole time for the entire length of the movie. These are very kind of conceptual and very process type ideas. But one of the things that ties all of this work together, and one of the things that keeps forcing you to rethink what it is he's doing and why he's doing it, is his, amazing attention to craft. That it, it makes you really have to, like, you can't dismiss him as just being a postmodern artist who has a lot of postmodern ideas. If you felt like that was something worth dismissing someone for, because he's also as formalist and as modernist in his craft and his attention to his medium and his material as any photographer. Um, anyway, they're just gorgeous. And similarly, I think someone like Wolfgang Tillmans, especially Tillmans' um, attention to presentation and to display, um, makes a huge difference in terms of because sometimes when you see Tillman's work just in a book or in like a magazine article, you might be unimpressed. But when you see the works in the gallery space, you know, his decisions about how these things should be presented changes the context of the seriousness of the importance of the work. So, presentation and display. So, once again, I rushed through the question, but you have time now. You can read it. So here are a few artists where I think, precisely because the kind of work that they make is pushes the boundaries of what you might consider to be not only good taste but also good craft, that they're a little bit loose in their attention to craft, or have a slightly more loose idea of craft, because therefore being very specific about how the work is presented is really, really important for someone like Nara, and especially for someone like Mike Kelly, that like his work, because it's so, or did, like, I mean, the work still does. Mike Kelly's no longer with us, but because his work so kind of pushes the boundaries of just being super kitschy and really bad taste at times, and because of that, the the thoughtfulness of how it's displayed is really important for part of the dialogue of how the work works. And the last artist I want to talk about with that, oh, actually, I kind of wish I'd added a few more works of hers. And von Bonnen, Cosima von Bonnen, in some ways is similar to Pardo in that her work occupies this kind of strange space where it's both, studio art, fine art like painting and installation. It's also craft related, that she is very much a fiber artist, and she approaches fiber art both as a craftsperson as well as a studio artist. But then, because of with her installations, there's very much this kind of interior design display aesthetic work in her work as well. Um, and yeah, I think that careful attention to how it's displayed, really thinking about how it's going to look in a space, in a gallery, is a huge part of how her work succeeds. Okay, that's the end of the product lecture. The next lecture is going to be called uh, Process, Concept, Product, I think in that order. And it's basically a series of contemporary artists in which I just talk about the dialogue between those three things and why um, that's an important part of how each of their bodies of work is interesting. Okay, that's the end. Thank you.